Most Mazda owners are killing their engine before they leave the driveway, every single morning, for years, without knowing it. That cold start habit everyone does? It strips more engine wear in 30 seconds than 300 miles of highway driving. That warm it up trick your dad taught you? Outdated by 40 years of engineering. Today, I'm showing you exactly what to stop doing and precisely what to do instead. The last mistake is the one I see in nearly every comment section on every car forum on the internet. Stick around. Let's get started. Number 12, flooring the accelerator. Right after startup. This is probably the fastest way to create unnecessary engine wear. You start the engine, everything sounds normal. Then, for whatever reason, you immediately press the accelerator hard. Maybe you're in a hurry, maybe you want the engine to warm up, maybe you simply enjoy hearing the engine rev. Whatever the reason, it's a bad idea. Here's why. When an engine has been sitting for several hours, most of the oil has drained back into the oil pan. The moment you start the engine, the oil pump begins circulating oil throughout the system. But that process is not instantaneous. It takes a short amount of time for oil to reach critical components and establish proper lubrication. Modern Mazda engines are engineered extremely well, but they still rely on oil to protect moving parts. When you immediately rev a cold engine, you're increasing loads and engine speeds before everything is fully stabilized. That creates additional wear. Now, to be clear, your engine is not going to explode because you revved it once. This is about long-term habits. Thousands of cold starts over years of ownership. Tiny amounts of extra wear repeated again and again. That is how engine life gets shortened. The better approach? Start the engine. Give it a moment to stabilize. Then drive gently for the first few minutes. Your engine will thank you. Here's something interesting. The next mistake is actually the exact opposite of this one, and millions of drivers still believe it's the correct thing to do. Number 11, letting it idle forever before driving. This one surprises a lot of people. Many drivers believe the best thing they can do is start the vehicle and let it sit idling for 10, 15, or even 20 minutes, especially on cold mornings. It sounds logical. After all, you're warming up the engine, right? Not exactly. Modern Mazda engines warm up most efficiently when they are driven gently, not when they sit idling in the driveway. When the engine idles, it produces relatively little heat compared to driving. That means it takes longer to reach proper operating temperature. Meanwhile, fuel economy suffers. Carbon deposits can accumulate more easily, and you're essentially wasting fuel. Now, before someone rushes to the comments, let's clarify. I'm not saying you should start your Mazda and immediately drive aggressively. That's mistake number 1. What I'm saying is this: start the engine, wait a brief moment, then drive normally and gently until everything reaches operating temperature. That's what most manufacturers recommend. Let's clear up a common misunderstanding here. When a car is idling, the engine is running at very low load. That means it produces less heat. And that's the key point most people miss. Engines don't warm efficiently at low load. They warm efficiently when there is controlled movement and light driving load. That's why manufacturers generally don't recommend long idle warm-ups for modern fuel-injected engines. Now, there are exceptions. Very cold climates can justify a short idle period, but short is the keyword here. We're talking about moments, not minutes. And here's what makes this habit tricky. It feels safe, it feels careful, but sometimes safe-feeling habits are not the most mechanically efficient ones. Coming up next, we're looking at a mistake that silently increases wear every single time you start your engine and forget about what's already running in the background. If you've been letting your Mazda idle for 10 minutes every morning, let me know in the comments. You're definitely not the only one. And if you're learning something new already, hit the like button. It helps more Mazda owners avoid expensive mistakes. Now let's talk about a startup habit that can be surprisingly hard on your starter motor. Number 10, repeatedly turning the engine on and off. This one happens more than people realize. You start the car, then remember you forgot something inside. You shut it off, go back inside, come back out, start it again, then move it a few feet, shut it off again. Later, start it again. Individually, none of these actions seem harmful, but frequent short start-stop cycles can create unnecessary wear. Every time you start the engine, several systems are working hard. The battery provides a large burst of power, the starter motor engages, fuel systems activate, engine components transition from rest to operation. Those startup events are among the most demanding moments of an engine's life. Doing them repeatedly without allowing the vehicle to reach proper operating temperature isn't ideal. This becomes especially important during colder weather. Short trips and repeated startups can allow moisture and contaminants to accumulate in the oil over time. That's one reason manufacturers often classify frequent short trips as severe driving conditions. There's also another layer most people miss. The starter motor is one of the most mechanically stressed components in the entire starting system. Every time it engages, it has to overcome engine resistance and inertia. It's not designed for constant rapid cycling. So when you repeatedly start and stop the engine within short intervals, you're increasing mechanical and electrical strain without giving the system enough time to stabilize. And while modern starters are strong, they are not infinite cycle components. Now, here's something interesting. Most of the wear from this habit doesn't show up immediately. It shows up later as slower cranking, intermittent starting issues, or early starter motor fatigue, which is why many drivers never connect the dots. And here's the crazy part. The next startup mistake can happen even before you turn the key or push the button. Most owners never think about it, but it can affect both the battery and electrical system. Number 9. Starting the engine with every electrical accessory. Running picture this. Your heated seats are on, the rear defroster is on, the headlights are on, the climate control is running at maximum speed, your phone is charging, the audio system is active. Then you start the vehicle. Can your Mazda handle it? Usually, yes. Modern vehicles are designed for real-world use, but creating unnecessary electrical load during startup isn't helping anything. The battery already has one major job: starting the engine. Adding additional electrical demands at the exact same moment increases the overall workload. This becomes even more important as batteries age. A brand new battery might handle everything effortlessly. An older battery may struggle. That can contribute to harder starts, especially during cold weather. A simple habit can help. If possible, reduce unnecessary electrical loads before startup, then allow the charging system to take over once the engine is running. It's a small thing, but small things add up. Here's a simple way to think about it. Your battery is like a reservoir of stored energy. Starting the engine drains a large chunk of it instantly. The alternator then refills it once the engine is running. Now imagine trying to drain and refill at the same time with multiple electrical loads active. Headlights, defoggers, heated seats, infotainment systems. It doesn't break anything instantly, but it changes the energy balance during a critical phase. And this is why older batteries struggle more in modern vehicles. Because modern cars don't just start engines anymore. They wake up entire computer systems at once. Speaking of batteries, the next mistake is one that many Mazda owners accidentally create themselves. And when it happens, the vehicle often gives very little warning. Number 8. Ignoring a weak battery. Let's be honest, most people don't think about their battery until the car refuses to start. That's usually how it goes. The battery works, the battery works, the battery works. Then suddenly one morning, nothing. But batteries often provide warning signs before they fail completely. The engine cranks more slowly. Startup feels less energetic. Electrical systems may seem weaker than usual. Dashboard lights may behave differently. These clues matter. Ignoring them can leave you stranded at the worst possible moment. However, here's what many owners don't realize. A weak battery can sometimes create strange symptoms that don't seem battery-related. Modern Mazdas contain numerous electronic systems. When voltage drops below normal levels, unusual behavior can occur. That doesn't automatically mean every problem is caused by the battery, but it does mean battery health matters more than many people realize. If your battery is several years old and showing signs of weakness, have it tested. Battery testing is often quick, inexpensive, and sometimes free. It's far better to discover a weak battery in a parking lot than on a rainy morning when you're already late for work. Quick question: how old is the battery in your Mazda right now? Drop the age in the comments. I'm curious to see how long some owners are getting out of theirs. And trust me, the next mistake might be the most common startup mistake on this entire list. Number 7. Heavy load. Immediately after starting. This is different from revving the engine in park, and it happens every single day. You start the vehicle, put it in gear, and immediately demand maximum performance, hard acceleration, high RPM, heavy throttle, full power, all within moments of startup. This is especially common when people are late or trying to merge quickly into traffic. The problem is that the engine, transmission, and other components are still transitioning from a cold state. Fluids haven't fully reached optimal operating temperatures. Clearances haven't stabilized. Everything is still warming up. Modern vehicles are incredibly durable, but they still benefit from gentle operation during the first few minutes. Modern Mazda engines are engineered with tight tolerances, which means they rely heavily on correct lubrication timing and stable operating conditions. Even small deviations during startup routines can influence long-term wear patterns. Over time, these effects compound, not instantly, but gradually across thousands of repeated ignition cycles. Think of it this way: if you woke up tomorrow morning and somebody told you to run a full-speed sprint the second you got out of bed, you probably wouldn't perform your best. Your vehicle is similar. A short period of gentle driving helps everything settle into normal operating conditions. You don't need to baby the vehicle for 30 minutes. You don't need to drive unusually slowly. You just need a few minutes of common sense. One more thing worth understanding here is fluid temperature. Engine oil, transmission fluid, and differential fluids all have optimal operating ranges. When cold, they are thicker. That increased viscosity means more resistance inside the system. So when you demand high performance immediately after startup, you are forcing mechanical systems to work harder before fluids are fully efficient. This doesn't mean you should baby your car endlessly. It just means the first few minutes matter more than the rest of the drive, and most wear happens when people ignore that difference completely. Coming up next, we're getting into a startup habit that many owners think is protecting their engine when it's actually doing the exact opposite. But before we continue, let me ask you something. How many of these mistakes have you counted so far? 1, 2, maybe more? Be honest in the comments. I'd genuinely like to know which one surprised you the most. Now let's continue, because the next mistake is one that many drivers believe is actually helping their engine. In reality, it can do the exact opposite. Number 6. Constantly warming up the engine by revving. Some drivers have a habit. They start the engine, then they repeatedly blip the throttle, vroom, vroom, vroom. They believe they are helping the engine warm up faster. The thinking seems logical. Higher RPM means more engine activity. More engine activity means faster warm-up. So it must be good, right? Not really. Modern Mazda engines are designed to manage their own warm-up process. Engineers have spent years developing systems that control fuel delivery, ignition timing, airflow, and engine temperature during startup. The engine knows what it is doing. It does not need your help. Repeatedly revving the engine while it is still cold increases mechanical stress before everything has reached ideal operating conditions. More importantly, it doesn't significantly improve anything. The fastest and healthiest way to warm up most modern vehicles is simple. Start the engine, allow it a brief moment to stabilize, then drive gently. That's it. No dramatic revving. No racing the engine in the driveway. No pretending you're about to start a race. Just smooth, normal driving. And here's something funny. Many people who baby their engine in every other way still do this one. They change the oil on time. They use good fuel. They follow maintenance schedules. Then every morning they start the engine and rev it repeatedly. There's also a psychological part to this habit. People like feeling that they are doing something to help the engine. But modern engine management systems are far more advanced than they used to be. Fuel injection, timing control, and idle regulation are all automated, so manual intervention during warm-up is not only unnecessary, it can actually interfere with how the engine naturally stabilizes itself, which is why the simplest approach remains the most effective. Start, wait briefly, drive gently. If you've ever done this, don't worry. Most drivers have at some point. The important thing is changing the habit moving forward. And speaking of habits, the next mistake is one that can quietly drain your wallet for years before you even realize what's happening. Number 5. Starting the engine and ignoring dashboard. Warning lights. Let's say you start your Mazda. A warning light appears. Maybe it's the check engine light. Maybe it's a battery warning. Maybe it's another warning indicator. You see it, then you think, the car still drives. It'll probably go away. I'll deal with it later. Weeks pass, then months. The warning light becomes part of the dashboard scenery. You stop noticing it. That is a mistake. Now, not every warning light means immediate disaster. Some warnings are more serious than others, but every warning light exists for a reason. Modern Mazdas constantly monitor dozens of systems. Sensors throughout the vehicle provide information to onboard computers. When something falls outside expected operating conditions, the vehicle alerts you. Ignoring those alerts can allow small problems to become larger ones. A minor issue today may be much cheaper to address than the same issue 6 months from now. This is especially true because many systems work together. One fault can sometimes affect multiple components over time. Think of warning lights like your body's symptoms. If you develop a small problem and address it early, life is usually easier. Ignore it for months, and things often become more complicated. The same principle applies here. And here's a quick challenge. How many people watching this video currently have a warning light on their dashboard? Type light in the comments if that's you. You might be surprised how many other owners are in the same situation. Now let's move on to a startup mistake that is becoming more common as vehicles become more advanced, and many people don't even realize they're doing it. Number 4. Shifting into gear before the engine has fully settled. This one happens quickly. So quickly that many drivers never notice it. You press the start button, the engine fires up, and before the idle speed has stabilized, you're already shifting into gear and moving. Now, modern Mazdas are designed to be driven. You don't need to sit there for several minutes, but there is value in giving the engine a brief moment to settle. When the engine first starts, idle speed is often higher than normal. The vehicle is managing cold start conditions. Fuel delivery is adjusting. Sensors are gathering information. Systems are stabilizing. Within a short period, everything settles into a normal rhythm. Giving the vehicle a few extra seconds before immediately selecting drive is simply good mechanical etiquette. It costs you almost nothing, but it helps ensure systems have had a chance to initialize properly. Think about it. You're already taking time to put on your seatbelt, adjust mirrors, set navigation, choose music. A few seconds is not going to make you late. Yet those few seconds can contribute to smoother operation over the long term. Trust me, the next mistake is one that many Mazda owners accidentally create every winter. Some people are doing it right now without realizing it. And don't skip ahead, because one of the last 3 mistakes on this list is responsible for more unnecessary battery and starter problems than most owners realize. Number 3. Starting the vehicle with low engine oil. This is one of the most preventable mistakes on the entire list, and yet it happens every day. Not because people are careless, mostly because people forget. Life gets busy, weeks pass, months pass, nobody checks the oil. Then one day the engine is running with less oil than intended. That's a problem. Engine oil is the lifeblood of the engine. It lubricates moving parts, helps control temperature, reduces wear, protects critical components. Without sufficient oil, protection decreases. And while modern vehicles often provide warnings for low oil conditions, relying entirely on warning systems isn't a great strategy. The best strategy is simple: check the oil periodically. It takes only a few minutes, and it can potentially save thousands of dollars. Now here's something most drivers completely miss. Oil level and cold starts are connected. If oil is slightly low, the first few seconds after startup become even more important because oil pressure distribution becomes less consistent during initial circulation. That's why technicians often say, an engine doesn't fail from one bad moment, it fails from reduced protection repeated over time. So checking oil level regularly is not just maintenance. It's protection for every single future startup. Many experienced technicians will tell you that one of the easiest ways to increase engine longevity is maintaining proper oil level and changing oil at recommended intervals. It's not glamorous advice, it's not exciting, but it works. Sometimes the biggest reliability secret is simply doing the basics consistently. And here's something interesting. The next mistake doesn't involve the engine itself. It involves something sitting in your pocket, yet it can still create startup problems. Number 2. Repeatedly cranking the engine when it won't start. This is one of the easiest ways to abuse your starter motor and battery. You try to start the engine, it doesn't start, so you immediately try again, and again, and again. After several attempts, the starter is working overtime and the battery is rapidly losing charge. Sometimes drivers keep cranking for 10 or 15 seconds at a time, hoping the engine will eventually come to life. The problem is that repeated cranking generates heat and stress in the starting system. If your Mazda doesn't start after a reasonable attempt, stop and figure out why. Is the battery weak? Is there a fuel issue? Is there another problem preventing startup? Continuously cranking the engine rarely fixes the root cause. Instead, it often creates additional problems. Here's the interesting part. The final mistake is the one that quietly determines whether your Mazda lasts 100,000 or 250,000 miles. Number 1. Treating every cold start like a normal start. If you remember only one thing from this entire video, remember this: a cold engine and a warm engine are not operating under the same conditions. Your Mazda is designed to handle cold starts. That's normal. What matters is what you do next. Many drivers start the vehicle and immediately demand maximum performance. Hard acceleration, high RPM, aggressive driving, heavy loads, all before the engine has had time to reach normal operating temperature. Now, modern engines are incredibly durable. They're designed to be driven, but they still benefit from a few minutes of sensible operation after a cold start. The owners who routinely get the highest mileage from their vehicles tend to understand this. They don't abuse cold engines. They don't excessively idle them either. They simply drive gently until temperatures stabilize. Then they use the vehicle normally. It's a simple habit. It costs nothing. Yet over years of ownership, it may be one of the most important things you can do for long-term engine health. And just to make this crystal clear, the goal is not to avoid cold starts. Cold starts are normal. Every driver does them. The goal is to avoid treating cold starts as if the engine is already fully warmed up. That distinction is what matters, because once the engine reaches operating temperature, everything changes. Oil flows better, combustion stabilizes, friction decreases, efficient improves. But until that point, restraint matters more than speed, and that small window is where most long-term wear either begins or is avoided entirely. And that's really the theme of this entire video. No single startup mistake automatically destroys an engine. The real problem is repetition. Small mistakes repeated thousands of times eventually become wear. Wear eventually becomes repairs. And repairs eventually become expensive. The good news is that every mistake on this list is completely avoidable. Now, be honest in the comments. I want to know which one surprised you the most. And if you found this video helpful, hit the like button and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoy learning the things most owners never hear about until it's too late, you'll definitely want to stick around for future videos. I'll see you in the next one.